Long, long ago, there lived a Brahmin and his family in a small village named Chandrapur. The Brahmin's name was Rameshwar. Brahmin Rameshwar was a learned man and pious soul. Due to his simplicity and high morals, he was respected by all the villagers. Rameshwar's life was devoted to God's service. In the premises of his house, there was a small temple. Early in the morning, Pandit Rameshwar would leave his bed and begin with his daily schedule. After taking bath in cool river water, he would go to the temple and worship God. It was the bell of the temple which awoke the villagers every morning. Hearing the bell, the people too would leave their beds and begin with their daily chores. Pandit Rameshwar's temple was the only temple of the village. So every day the village devotees visited the temple to pay their reverence. Depending upon their devotion and capacity, they offered God with money, milk, fruits and flowers. Though the offering was meant for God, in actual it was enjoyed by Pandit Rameshwar and his family. By the grace of temple, Pandit Ji and his family were leading a peaceful and comfortable life. There were other Brahmins also in the village, but due to Pandit Rameshwar's simplicity, he was the most sought after during religious festivals and different rituals. So Pandit Ji's earnings was good enough to give his family a good comfortable life. Then one day, the life did not remain same for Pandit Rameshwar's family. That day, people of the village did not awake to hear the familiar bell ringing of the temple, but they were awakened by the loud morning voices and shrill cries. Villagers rushed to Pandit Rameshwar's house. They were shocked to find the dead body of Pandit Ji lying on the floor. The wife of Pandit Ji was crying bitterly over her husband's dead body. The orphan children too were wailing with their mother. A sudden death had snatched Pandit Ji away from his family. The villagers too plunged in deep sorrow. Pandit Ji was loved and respected by everyone. So at this time of grief, the villagers assured the aggrieved wife, "Please don't consider yourself alone. We will take care of you." Pandit Rameshwar was the sole breadwinner of the family. Though the villagers ensured that Pandit Ji's family should not starve to death, the earlier comfort and sense of security had vanished. Pandit Rameshwar died, but not his soul. In his next birth, he was born in the form of golden swan. Surprisingly, he did not lose the memory of his earlier birth. In his present form of swan, he would often worry about the well-beings of his wife and family. He would say to himself, "My family must be leading a hard and miserable life in my absence. My poor wife would be struggling in this big world to bring her small children up." The thought perturbed him, and he could not live in peace. Unable to bear more, the swan finally flew to his village to see his family. His fear was indeed true. His wife and children had reduced to a thin skeleton due to malnourishment. They were wearing rags donated by the villagers. His heart cried to see the condition of the innocent tender children. He flew inside the house. Pandit Rameshwar's children saw the unique golden swan entering inside the house. The children were very much excited to see the amazing creature. They at once informed their mother, "Mother, mother, a unique golden swan has entered in your chamber." The mother rushed out of the kitchen to hear it and hurried to her chamber. She was startled to find a golden swan there. For a few moments, she could not say anything. The golden swan said, "My dear, I am your husband. Didn't you recognize me? In my present birth, I have attained golden swan's form." The wife was still skeptical about the virgin. But when the golden swan told her about a few events of his last birth and about some moments which they spent together, she believed that he was indeed her husband. The golden swan poured his heart. I feel like crying to see my family's pathetic condition. The wife's eyes too filled with tears. I am really sorry, my dear, she sighed. I could not keep our children well. What could I do without you, dear? We all are orphaned. The wife was wailing in her misery. Tears were rolling down from the eyes of the golden swan too. He consoled, Dear wife, please don't cry, I have come back to save you from your woes. Pluck one of my golden feather from my body. Initially, the wife was little hesitant, but on insistence of the golden swan, she plucked one of the feathers. To her utter surprise, the golden feather actually turned into gold feather. She was overjoyed to see it. The swan said, My dear, go to the market and sell this gold feather. It will fetch good money, and with the money you bring food and clothes for yourself and the children. The wife thanked the golden swan and proceeded to the market. That day, after a long time, the Brahmin family had stomach full of meal and wore new clothes. The days of misery and woes of Brahman's family indeed became the event of past. Now it had become the practice for the golden swan to fly up to his old house and allow his wife to pluck one of his feathers. Soon the Brahman's widow became so rich that she bought a new big house. Beautiful furnitures and different luxury articles adorned her house. The widow and children would wear expensive clothes. Everyone in the village was startled to see the overnight change in the condition of the poor widow. Every day the magical swan flew up to the widow and allowed one of his golden feathers plucked by her, and thus helped her being richer every day. After some time, she bought a bigger house and more luxuries for herself and her children. The husband in the form of swan was very content and happy for the transformed condition of his family. But the same was not true with the widow. The easy riches made the woman the victim of greed. She wanted to be more and more rich, and that too in a very small time. For her the swan was just a magical swan, not her husband in different form. She began thinking, one feather each will take a long time to make me richest woman of the region. However, if I pluck all the golden feathers together and sell them off in the market, I will surely become the richest person of the whole region. The woman thought again and again on her greedy evil plan and decided to accomplish it. Next day, when the noble swan came to the widow, she quickly held him with his neck. The swan was puzzled to see her behavior. Before he could say anything, the woman began plucking feathers 1, 2, 3. The golden swan screamed to see her madness. Stop doing this. It's not appropriate to pluck more than one feather. But where the woman had patience to hear him, she continued with her heartless work. The swan begged, Please do mercy on me. It's causing a lot of pain, and besides that I shall not be able to fly if you plucked all the feathers. Whatever the swan said to the woman, she didn't pay heed to his words and continued with her gruesome act. The widow stopped only when she had plucked all the golden feathers from the swan's body. After completing her work, she happily and hurriedly began collecting all the feathers lying on the floor. But strange thing happened. Instead of gold feathers, there were lying ordinary white feathers. The woman began tearing apart her hair in despair to see the white feathers. She was screaming, Where has all my fortune gone? How the gold feathers changed into white feathers? A sad, sorry voice appeared from the corner. Your greed took away the magic and your good fortune. You were supposed to take a single feather from my body. But in your greed, you didn't care for me, your husband, who even in his next birth could not forget you. Now when you have chased away your good fortune with your greediness, you live in your old misery. Saying so, the poor swan hopped to a remote place. Gradually, with the passing time, the new feathers covered his body. So far as the widow was concerned, she too gradually returned to her old poverty and misery. The rest of her life she spent repenting over her evil greed. Thank you for watching and please subscribe.